Okay, Melissa, would you call us to order?
I sure will. Mayor Mark Sukup.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rick Collins.
Here.
Councilmember Aaron Pearson.
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake.
Here.
Councilmember Brett Hansen.
Here.
Aaron, do we have any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Public comment. Melissa, do we have public comment?
Yes, Mayor, we do have one person in the remote participating who would like to speak. I can bring them on now. His name is Douglas Marvin. Douglas, we're going to unmute you and allow you to unmute yourself. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Great, thanks everyone. My name is Douglas Marvin. I live over in Wild Wing at 2902 Thunderview Drive. Wanted to address the council this evening about the access to Timnath Reservoir. First, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the town of Timnath employees that do a great job every day helping us have such great amenities and such a great town. Really great to live in this place. But what I wanted to address was access. Access to the reservoir, I know, is exclusive to Timnath residents. And I think the way that it's being managed currently, though, I know a lot of good thoughts been put into that. I think it, my recommendation would be to change how we're doing this. Right now, it's those of us that get in line at the beginning of the year and secure, the pass, then have access throughout the rest of the year. The problem with that is that what happens to new residents as they move in, they essentially won't have access outside of maybe daily use permits, which I know at this point, if I'm understanding correctly, are only 10. So we have a limited access pass situation. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the very limited daily use passes. I think the way Horsetooth is doing it is a pretty good way to do it, where they don't limit, to my knowledge, they don't limit the number of passes that they sell. Rather, they limit the number of people that can access the parking areas, essentially based on parking spaces. We in Wild Wing have access on the northwest corner. The other access point is on the southwest corner, the main access point. I know that the town is beefing up the number of employees that are managing, enforcing the rules of the reservoir on both sides of the reservoirs, from what I understand. And I think we can manage the use by giving unlimited access as far as passes go to town of Timnath residents by doing a similar approach. That way, everyone has equal opportunity to access the reservoir on a daily basis based on, how many parking spaces or availability that way. One change that would have to go into effect is the street that's adjacent to the shore access on the northwest side. We'd have to add a little bit more restrictions there, which I think is needed anyways, because last year there was certainly a lot of people parking there. I think more than should have been. And then, I can literally see the reservoir from my house. And I don't think ever on a single day in 5 years that we've been living here that I've ever seen anywhere near 450 total people, or total vessels on the reservoir in any given day, not even remotely close to that. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Doug. Melissa, was there another? Oh, there's not? That was it? Okay. So Doug and a couple people who did send in some memos to us, what I think we had a excellent committee headed up by Aaron Pearson, who came up with recommendations for how the reservoir works and how many permits and that. This year, I think we went from 400 non-motorized vehicles to boats to 450. But that said, let's have staff take a relook at this and see if there's another way to get more boats on the reservoir for Timnath residents.
Sure, Mayor. Staff will take a look at it. Do you have some guidance for us at all? Or do you want us to just, do you want us to bring something back to the council to act on, amended policy, so to speak? or-
Yeah, why don't you take a look and if it works, I don't know, Aaron, if to bouncing it off the pros before it comes here, and just sort of send them a blanket recommendation before it gets here, that'd be great. We probably ought to do it before this first meeting in May, don't you think? And
Yeah, we
and
can-
that way there's still time for people to enjoy the reservoir if we decide to make changes and stuff. But I know, Aaron, your group made a real yeoman's effort and reviewed it real hard. Staff, I know, took a total relook. We added 50, but never hurts to relook again and take a look at it. So
We'll do that and bring a recommendation back.
great. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yep.
And that's all the public comments then, Melissa? Okay. Consent agenda payables. Any comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve consent.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda is setting up public meetings on Chapter 4, Article 10 of the Timnath Municipal Code regarding emergency service impact fees. Matt, is there anything you want to comment on?
No, Mayor, this is actually just for that public hearing, so it's the first reading. So there'll be no discussion on this one, but there is another item later in the agenda that
Yeah.
we'll talk about.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then agenda, other, approving the town council meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2021. Does anyone have any changes or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Council reports. I think, Lisa, you said you had something you'd like to say?
Yeah, so I am Timnath's rep for the Behavioral Health Policy Council that's run through Larimer County. And at our most recent meeting, the topic came up about Mental Health Awareness Month, which is in May. And one thing that the group is wanting communities to do, if possible, would be to have all communities read a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I wanted to bring that one up specifically, but then also maybe mention something about, I know we don't do a lot of them. I don't think we need to do 10 a meeting or anything like that, but I thought that might be a nice way of incorporating some of the careers that we have through the town. So I know we did something for engineering week or month. So going forward, I thought that might be something that we want to look at to kind of touch on topics that are important to us as a council or community or staff. This one specifically would be for May. The county has drafted a template that communities can use. So if you all are okay with that, I'd like us to maybe put that on the agenda for the first meeting in May, and I can work with Aaron or whoever to give the draft and read that off. In addition to that, they are also coming up with talking points or social media posts. And I was just thinking that that's something that if all the communities within Larimer County are doing that, that we can kind of post some of those, whether it's weekly or something like that throughout the month of May, if all of you are all okay with that.
Great. Lisa, do you want to, if it's for the month of May, do you want to maybe included in the agenda for April 27th as
We-
opposed to,
We could do either.
it's your call, I'm asking.
The draft's already done, so as long as I can work with Aaron and Lori or whoever needs to, Melissa, to get that done, then I would be okay with that.
Okay, and then we could get, Aaron, maybe have her get, Lisa, getting connected with Kim to add to our, I don't see Kim. Oh, there she is.
She's on the other side today.
Sneaked in over in the corner. So Aaron, have Lisa get with Kim to put a couple pronouncements in our website. Does that sound okay? Is that
Okay,
okay with you, Lisa?
That sounds great. I'll work with them. A couple other things. One is that I know we have a work session coming up for code of conduct. And I just want to make sure that you all are okay with me still working with town staff to kind of get together either talking points or a draft to bring at some point to council. And then third one was I talked with Aaron a little bit about one thing that I've wanted to do, and I'm not sure if right now is the exact correct time, but starting to do perhaps meet and greets with community members. I know they're starting to lift some restrictions, but still following guidelines where Brett, I believe you had mentioned that as well. So I didn't know if we as a council wanted to set something up where we all kind of take turns doing something like that, or if we tag team doing some of that, or just something to kind of think about. I'm going to look over at Susan. She's in there because I'm going to try to work with her on some logistics to see if we have approval to work on something like that right now in a safe and healthy environment.
How many people can we put in the community room, Aaron?
I'm not sure the number. I know Susan met with Larimer County, had a representative come out and actually talk to Susan. Do you know, Susan?
I like the concept, Lisa. The reason why I'm asking the number of people is if we can only put in 10, I don't know if we want to do it for that. But if we can put in 30,
Yep.
then
And this may not be right now. It could be a month, 2 months from
Yeah.
now as restrictions get lifted.
So the room as it is right now,
yes,
we can have 20.
20.
If we open up the doors that lead to those little executive rooms, then we can have 30. And we had Larimer County out to okay it, so.
I let's start maybe in May and start the meet and greet, and we all just, everybody takes one a month and we do something to that effect, and we could have a new topic each month that we choose on that we think's.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a little bit more as somewhat of a listening session. So where I would hear feedback from community members, and then at the council meeting after that can kind of give an overview of what I heard, so that as a council, we can decide if any of the issues that are brought up would be things that we would want to work on.
I think it's great. I don't know if we need to talk about what we hear on it as much as let's put it in our council.
I could do that.
Council report. And then if somebody sees something in there that they'd like to elaborate upon, or you feel like you have to elaborate on when you're there, we do that.
Perfect.
Yes, Rick.
Yeah, realistically, I think you're probably looking at June instead of May. If we try to do it. And the other one, I just look at it having open houses. And I think we could always make sure that we get at least 1, 2, 3, maybe all of us at those to hear out what people have to say and let them know that those are available, kind of deal.
My two bits is let's make sure that we got enough people that it merits 2, 3 of us. So maybe we start with one of us and we have it and see how it goes. And the first one, even the first one we got it, can't judge because there might be a pent up demand. But by the time we get to
who knows?
Yeah. By the time we get to the third or fourth one, we ought to have a feel and get our rhythm going.
Okay.
But I think the concept's a great one. I'm looking, everybody's nodding. So I think the concept's great. So Aaron, if you could help make sure that comes to fruition and stuff, that'd be awesome.
Great. Thank you. That's
Great.
all I
Thanks,
had.
Lisa. All right, we got a special ceremony we get to participate in. Chief Jones, I'm going to hand it over to you right away.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mayor Pro Tem, town manager and town attorney. It is my distinct pleasure this evening to be able to introduce you to two new members of our agency and swear them in. It's going to be Officer Chuck Richards and Chad Morgan, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about them before we begin the ceremony. This is not their first oath. Both of them began in law enforcement a short time ago, one rather lengthy, and that's Chuck. Chuck Richards spent 13 years with CSU PD. He was a corporal and then promoted to sergeant. So we're very fortunate to have him come on board because he has not only experience, but the leadership qualities of an individual. Chad spent 17 years with the Colorado Department of Parks and Wildlife, and he spent 3 years at CSU. Now, coming from the university environment, it was a big plus for us, but there was some interesting facts that we found out. In the university environment, Mr. Richards, or Officer Richards as he was known, claimed that he was a member or at least knew somebody in a famous band, a guy by the name of Keith Richards. We're not sure if he's related or not. On the other hand, Officer Morgan preferred to be called Captain Morgan. We're not exactly sure what that was all about, but nonetheless, they came highly recommended, and after a thorough background investigation and a competitive process, we selected them for our town. And this, I suppose competitiveness is not just based on their past track record, but most importantly, it's based on their character as individuals. Now, with the experience that they had, they both came into our agency rather humble because we put them through a mini skills academy starting back in November of last year, which was a month. And then they spent 16 weeks on daily observations with the field training officer to learn the Timnath way. And the Timnath way, as I like to claim, is we put a high bar for our officers, and they both successfully bridged that gap and made it through that process and crossed over that bar. But the humility spoke volumes of both men as well. In the short time that they've been here, which has been far, far less than a year, in 2 instances, and one just came in just the other day, both officers have been recognized for their behavior and their professionalism, which reflects on their character. One call of note was a distraught parent who was notified by one of their children that another sibling was at Walmart and that individual was kind of acting a little peculiar. Well, that young man is an autistic youth, and Officer Morgan took it upon himself to contact the parents when he talked to the sibling to find out what the trigger points for this young man were. The parents were absolutely amazed that he had the forethought in order to contact them first before he contacted their son. They explained in a letter to me that they couldn't believe just how empathetic, compassionate, and caring and professional Officer Morgan was. Just the other day, I received another letter from an individual, came in through the department, we call them attaboys and attagirls. We've got another factor of issues too that we call awe, and then you fill in the blank. But the attaboys and attagirls come in rather frequently as well. And this one was for Officer Richards. And Officer Richards had conducted an investigation on a hit and run where the victim of the hit and run was absolutely terrified of the police. But the individual came into the police department, and it was based on Officer Richards' ability to communicate effectively and talk to him that the individual came away from the police department with a completely different outlook about law enforcement officers. And we all know that things have changed in law enforcement, and they're continuing to evolve to this day. And one of the most salient things is years ago, you didn't put on a mask when you walked into a bank. Well, now they order you to put on a mask when you walk into a bank. So things have changed a little bit. But based on that, and it's just a short, brief history of those two individuals, I'd like them both to come up front. I will swear them in. Then they will have an opportunity to have members of their family, and I think it's both of their sons that will be pinning their badges on. And Officer Richard indicated that his son may not make it in time. So I want to find out about traffic speeds. We'll chat later. And then afterwards, you're certainly invited to come next door and have some refreshments and cake to celebrate their swearing in. But gentlemen, if you would come forward.
Chief Jones, I saw that somebody was wanting to take pictures back there. Why don't you invite them to come up forward too if they get better pictures.
Thanks, Mayor. Jacob? All right, gentlemen, if you'd both raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States, the laws of the state of Colorado, and the charter, ordinances, and regulations of the town of Timnath. And I will faithfully perform those duties during my employment to the best of my ability. So help me God. Ladies and gentlemen, I offer to you Officer Morgan and Officer Richards. Sergeant Wynkoop, if you would present the badges for the individuals to pin them on. We'll try not
Also,
to-
Chief Jones, if family members want to come up and take a picture while this is going on, that's fine too.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Would the Captain Morgan family like to come forward? Or Keith Richards's family?
You guys can come inside the gate if you'd like.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Thank
Members of
you.
council.
Everybody here on council's wish both new officers the best of luck here, and we're real proud to have you with part of our force. Thank you. Resolution number 19, Series 2021, approving standard services agreement for Apex Paving Solutions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. There's a report in there, and so I'm here to answer any questions you might have about it. Go ahead, Brett.
I was just curious if you could comment on why we only got the one bid on this, if you had any thoughts on that.
Actually, I do.
Okay.
This is a very specialized, activity. And we used to have two groups about 4 or 5 years ago that did this. And that's just not the case anymore. And Apex has kind of specialized in this for the last several years. And there's another group in Denver that kind of does there's actually two down there that does the majority of it. It's gotten so specialized that the pavers like the Connells and the Colsons and other paving outfits, they have too much other work. And so they don't partake in this at all. So it was not a surprise to me that we only got one bid. What was encouraging was that the numbers we got this year were very similar to the unit costs from last year.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
For the sake of our TV audience, might explain, this is an ongoing budget item and ongoing maintenance that the city does or the town does every year. There's about $375,000 in that budget, and it's a good program.
Yep.
Keep ahead of it.
Thank you. Yeah, and it pays dividends for the town and the streets and the infrastructure. When we keep up with it, it lasts significantly longer. It's the dollars we spend now come back in dividends every year.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Sorry?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Resolution number 20, Series 2021, approving a change order for the ALM 2S Design Services. I think it was written up there pretty good, Brian, but if you want to make a comment or two, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to point out is that there's two discussion points in the staff report. One is an action item, that is the change order for ALM 2S. The second one is just kind of a general discussion with the council. At our February work session, we did talk about the hot water reheat, and we promised to bring back some information about the payback on that. So that information is also included in there. We're happy to answer any questions that might be about either one of those topics, but just to be clear, you would only be acting on the change order and then giving us some direction on the budget.
So let's split up our discussion to first the resolution. And so does anybody have any comments, questions on the resolution for the architecture fees? And I'm seeing no. So could I have a motion to approve that?
I move to approve the resolution approving change order number 4 with ALM 2S for design services for the Timnath Police Building.
And
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now this is a discussion regarding water versus electric and an additional cost to what the council previously approved on the building. So does anybody want to go ahead?
I guess
Aaron.
I'll start. I know we had, when Rick and I were at the meeting back in January or whatever month that was, with the whole entire crew, there was probably between 12 and 17 of us, depending on what the topic was. We had quite a discussion about this, and I'm glad to have these numbers. Thank you, staff, for preparing those. I think from what I remember, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me, Rick, but I thought we had talked about then that maybe if that number was about an 8-year payback, that it seemed to make more sense to do the water reheat from an energy efficient standard, just in being with the town and trying to be more aware of our resources and nature's resources to be able to save that energy. So I would be in favor of it, but I'll go with whatever the council feels on this.
Go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead, you had
Oh, I just had one thing I wanted to point out. There was a little discrepancy, two actually discrepancies in the staff report. I listed the approved budget that we discussed as 11.6 million in the staff report. It was actually 11.9 million that we agreed on. I went back and looked at the summary report that we did from that. So I just wanted to clarify that change. And the other one was the budget would increase by $100,000, but the actual cost for that system was 125. So in the staff report, it said it was a 5-year payback. It was actually a 6-year. It's like a little bit under 6 years, but a 6-year payback.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a question for you. With the upgraded system, you would have to have a specialized maintenance person. Is that included in the numbers?
So I don't think we have to have a specialized maintenance person. We do need to have the boiler inspected every year, similar to how we would have the rooftop units inspected every year. Jeff, do you want to speak about any additional maintenance on it?
Thanks. Yes, Rick, it wouldn't be a full-time position or even a part-time position. It's more of a contract technician that would check on the boiler periodically. But it's going to be a smart system that's all able to be monitored and controlled remotely. So I don't see any more cost for the maintenance of it than the registration and maybe changing out some chemicals for the pre-treatment that goes into the boiler system itself. That's about it.
Right, and you caught the other one. I had that the numbers didn't add up because I've been trying my best to try to keep this in the 11s. And at 11.9, we're right on the edge, and this is right on the cusp as far as payback, not payback, and that I just as soon keep the system we've got and stay with where we're at and try to keep it under 12.
Do you wish to talk, Brett?
Yeah. I mean, I think my personal feelings is that the payback over 5 to 6 years is reasonable. I even dug into the numbers a little bit. You know, it assumes pretty high efficiencies, 90+%. And so I took a pessimistic assumption and said, okay, what if we have to double our natural gas costs on this? And we're still seeing payback in about 7.5 to 8 years, even if we have garbage efficiency out of the system. And then if we're saving $15,000, $20,000 every year, that I imagine that would cover any kind of maintenance issues it's actually fewer moving parts than a typical heating system. So I actually would expect we could see less maintenance costs as a possibility. Again, I don't have super strong feelings one way or the other, but to me, it makes sense if we're essentially paying back in about 5 years.
So, and I agree with you, Brett. I don't have any super strong feelings one way or the other on this. I'll tell you what my inkling is, and I've built 3 office buildings in my time. And I always thought it'd be a great idea to have a hot water system and underneath, and I like always to be sort of state of the art. I was discouraged from it every single time. And the reason why is first the maintenance. There's a maintenance charge on all of them, and they claim they get better and stuff. But according to the guys, I called up a couple of my friends who are major contractors. They said they'd never put one of these systems in any building they had. And the reason why is there are just too many things that can go wrong. And so if there's too many things that can go wrong, and we've got a police station, which could have somebody do a terrorist act, all of a sudden the water breaks and you've totally lost the system there. So I'm concerned about that. The second thing is if the water breaks, you have to totally replace all the flooring. You have to totally replace the drywall because that comes up. And to put those kind of risk out on a building that's a high risk building to start with, to me, isn't something I'd want to do. To me, I'm scared of it. And if they're telling me when I was developing office buildings that you don't want this kind of system because of the things that pop up, I would think that'd be doubly or triply true on a police station or a fire department or anything else. And so that's the reason. I know I'm a frugal person and wanted to keep costs down. It's really not why I'm saying I don't want to do this. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the system and how it works and my understanding of how it works from people that are a lot smarter than me and have built a lot more buildings than me. So that's where I'm coming.
Yeah, the other one is I would challenge staff too to say, if it does cost that much more, is there a way we can try to find those savings and still keep this at 11.9?
Yeah, I mean, we have, a significant, not a significant, but we have contingency in there as we're working through the design process. So the challenge is that we're moving from schematic design to design development right now. And we need to pick a direction to kind of design the building. I mean, it changes the footprint of the utilities required if we're going to have the boiler versus not having the boiler. So the further we get down the road, the more design costs we'll incur if we change our mind midstream. So,
so Brian, what do you want? So we've had, I think, a nice discussion here, but do you need further input, or is this something you want us to decide now, or do you want to go back to the drawing board and come back to us, or tell me what
No, I think we'd like to have a decision now so that we're moving forward in an efficient way. I would say we're not really advocating one way or the other. I think we just want to make a decision so we can move forward.
And I loved your report. I thought it was very even-handed and very, very well thought out and stuff. And so I was very pleased with how it came out and goes. So, I'm going to start with you, Brett. We'll just go down the line and say what you feel and why. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's say what you feel and why, and then we'll come through and say I'm for it or against it, just so that you can hear everybody's input and might change, thoughts.
I think I generally express my thoughts. I think it's a greener building. It makes sense financially. So I think there's a lot of merit to doing the water reheat system.
I agree with Brett for the same reasons, just being good stewards of the environment, and it's going to be less impactful. Energy costs are going to probably go up much higher at a higher rate. If you read some of the reports on that. So I think the savings could even be greater as as electricity costs go up, but I'm certainly not going to, I'll go with whatever people feel.
And this is, again, I think it's one of those decisions, you get 2, 3, 4, 5 smart business people in a room, they're all going to have a different feel and they're all right. It's just what it is. I am against it for more than just a financial reason. I'm against the system as such from what I've learned and operated in these kinds of systems, and that's why. Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to side towards the budget and say, if we lose this battle, or if it's not a win or lose, but if you go with the system, then I'd encourage you to find ways to cut costs and other things to try to come back and say we kept it within the 11.9.
Lisa.
So I don't have strong feelings on this. I guess I would have a question to Brian. Is there merit to what Mark is saying about the systems perhaps being faulty or having some fault, or can you, obviously you can't give us a guarantee, but what is your experience with that type and things like that?
So my experience specifically with these systems are they can be a little tricky up front, and getting the right filtered water system, but it's going to be designed as a closed loop. So once the water is inside the loop, it's clean and it runs and it recirculates that system. And it is a dual system. So there's 2 different boilers. So if one boiler did go down, the second boiler kicks in and it can run the whole building. All hospitals, almost all schools, surgery centers, they're all hydronic. They're not electric reheats.
So I would say I kind of agree with if we know there's going to be cost savings with going with it, I think that makes sense. But I'm also agreeing with Rick where if we can look to see, obviously there's finishes and things like that we could maybe look at that would keep some of that cost down as well. But I would be for it.
Along those same lines, when we toured, remember Windsor's facility and how Windsor said that they were sold on the idea of using geothermal to make the building more cost and more green. And they told us that it's turned out to be the biggest nightmare ever.
Yeah, that became a definite limiting factor for them being able to expand into the footprint that they needed. So,
and on the issue of cost fluctuations, I looked at that as well, because if you look at your XL energy bill this month, you'll see the difference in price on natural gas a year ago versus this last month. But you're going to have the same problem with both systems kind of deal. Those kind of things are going to tweak it both ways.
All right, so
I would just ask one more question. There are future phases planned for this building. Are there thoughts about what's an easier system to expand with?
I think either system's expandable, and the boilers would be sized for the ultimate expansion.
Okay.
Regarding costs, and Rick, I hear what you're saying about trying to stay under 11.9. The market right now is pretty volatile on the commodities and materials, and it continues to be pretty scary. So I would lean towards maybe being a little conservative with our budget right now, so we have some flexibility on the backside as we're pricing this and finalizing design, because the steel market, all the metal market, wood, everything is going through the roof right now. We're thinking we're going to see some relief once the mills and the shops and the fabrication starts back up again at 100%, but who knows? The lead time right now for metal decking and bulk-craft joists, which we have on this building and probably 99% of most commercial buildings, are running, 8 months to 9 months. Usually it's 6 to 8 weeks to get your joist and decking. So we've got a bit of a challenge on our hands right now with just the lead time of material for the building.
You mean you don't agree with our Fed chairman who says that there is no inflation and nothing's going up?
Right, and you'll remember our
Imagine that.
in our discussions over in Windsor, when we were going over this thing, 2 days, I raised the issue saying, are we sure that the cost to build a commercial building like this, it's a good time to do that or not? And they kept telling us, yes, this is an excellent time. Yet people, I heard developers in the field say, no, things are going to go through the roof, it looks like. The other point I'd like to leave, I'd like us to be, if we're looking at green issues and that, to be as aggressive looking at like native grasses around that building and that. We raised that during our discussions, the 2 days discussion, and we were told, well, we can't do that, I don't think, because we want green grass all the way along the commercial sites, all the way along Harmony, sort of look nice. Well, I challenge you. I think we could put natural grasses in some of that, especially what they've got now, and it would save us sprinkling costs galore and save money. And maybe we could take a little more time now while we're doing the landscaping and looking at the hot water, also saying, is there a way to put some grass in there, but also put native grasses and maybe help other people that are going to build along the corridor and get out of this bind of thinking we had to haul in all this sod. I think it could be done nice. So I throw that another challenge to staff.
We're up for the challenge.
Let's see what we say. Let's go through and see comments and see if we get close. Brett?
Yeah, I support the hot water reheat, but I also do feel that if we've got budget risk, if there's significant budget risk, then I would change. So I'll defer to you guys to interpret that vote. So.
I'm in agreement with Brett there on both counts.
And I'm for keeping the electric and from a danger standpoint.
Pressure.
Well, I didn't quite get, I think what you guys are saying is keep it at 11.9. Wait, tell me what you're saying.
So we're being told that there is potential risks in materials costs.
Yeah.
And if we're going to run into problems to, if the budget's going to start ballooning over 12 million significantly, then this would be an area I'd want to cut costs on and keep it as electric.
So I'm going to look to you, Mr. Jensen, for just a second, and that is, and I think if we don't build it now, the cost is going to be 13 million in a year from now and 14 million in a year from that. Irrespective of what our Chairman Powell says, and so. With that in mind, and it looks like you're nodding that you agree with me that we're probably going to be looking at more inflation. I think we all sort of agree 11.9, and I can't imagine you being able to change in 6 months if steel goes up and lumber goes up and everything else to change the system around. So I think we're laying it to you saying, correct me, anybody here, please. I think we're laying it to you saying, look, we want to stay at the 11.9, but it sounds like you're saying that's going to be really tough and we're going to be working hard to keep it there. And if that's it, we're saying then let's go with the electric at the front, which may be saying we're at the electric now anyway. But did I summarize this okay?
Yeah, but I don't think you should put it on them to make that decision. I hope that's all right.
Do you feel
potentials in other places where you can come back and say, yes, we went over a little bit there, but we know we can get, carpeting or tile or whatever, like for a little bit less than.
I guess, do you think you can get it under 12?
Yeah.
And then, go with electric reheats.
Discussion, council, great thinking through it, and I thought it was an
Aye.
opposed and approving the intergovernmental agreement for the assessment, collection, and remittance of emergency impact fees for Poudre Valley Fire Protection District. Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Tonight, we're we're asking you to enter into an IGA with PFA for these collection of impact fees. Chief Demint is here as well, and I'll just kind of do a quick overview of what our conversations have been. PFA, by way of their Poudre Valley Fire Protection District, provides services for the town and other areas outside of the town. And they collect fees, impact fees in Fort Collins and elsewhere in Larimer County. And they're asking Timnath to join into that impact fee collection to help pay for capital improvements and large capital expenditures. There's a scale in the staff report based on the square footage of buildings, residential and non-residential, and what those look like and how much that impact fee will be. And there's also, we did some outreach to the builder community. We did it was Chief Demint, myself, and another staff member from PFA that we did a presentation. And there was one person in attendance.
And enjoyment in retirement. And thanks for all the years of service, how you've run our fire department. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. That's very kind. I appreciate that very much.
Matt, I don't know if we need to, we sort of talked about it. Unless you've got something, I think we're probably ready to vote, quite frankly.
Well, we have questions, but I have two things I'd like to add. On April, actually act on the same IGA. So the two partnership things will be then solidified at that point. And in your staff report, you actually acted on earlier on the consent agenda was an ordinance that was going to be coming forward that actually enables the town to do this. So at the next meeting, I'll present that, but it'll be exactly in alignment with what this document is tonight.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, I had a question. Does a police station or police department we're building then require a permit as a commercial site?
It does require a permit.
Yeah, so my understanding about 22,000 square foot, that'd make it about a $13,000 permit. And I just throw that out there because these are the kind of costs that add up.
Well,
There's a provision there's a provision in the statute that government buildings are exempt.
Yep. So we've covered that base, and
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good
Is there
question.
anything else you'd like to ask?
Nope, that's all I
Matt?
had.
Council, any questions? Could I have a motion?
I move we pass resolution 22, series 2021.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks. Before I forget, and Kim, subject to council's approval and Aaron, I thought Chief Terry Jones's two stories about his two officers were real compelling. And I would think having that as a cover feature on our website, one each month, would be a good idea. Okay, we all good? Okay. Chief Jones, I don't know if you did hear, but Chief Jones and the officers are next door having cake and ice cream or whatever. And so he invited the entire council to come and say hi. So you're welcome to go next door if you have the time. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.